Hey, homeschool moms. Nice to see you today. I'd love to hear who's here and welcome to today's live session. I'm excited that you're here with me. Before we get into the depths of what we're going to talk about today, let's have a little fun. If you would drop your favorite emoji for how you're feeling today or how, it describes your best homeschool mood at this season. Are you feeling overwhelmed, excited? Maybe you're like happy to continue doing what you're doing and the energy that you're doing it, or somewhere in between. I'd love to see. Okay. So life is a lot these days. There's a lot going on. And it's been like this for a long time over the last number of years. And so sometimes overwhelm that we're experiencing isn't just about relationships. It's not just about our homeschool experience. It's not just about our community support or lack thereof. There's layers of added stress going on in the world today that are just, adding to the cumulative experience of overwhelm that we're experiencing. We're all experiencing life differently, but over the last few years, there have been a lot of contributing stressors, and I'm sure you can probably point your finger to a few. So let's talk about overwhelm, because overwhelm can be such a catch-all phrase or word that means a lot of different things. It can be masking the deeper emotions like stress or frustration in a relationship or agitation or various things that you might be experiencing right now. And just like anger can be the tip of an iceberg representing a whole bunch of feelings under that iceberg, the same is so for overwhelm. So overwhelm can feel like it has this destructive tip above the ocean. There's a massive chunk hidden beneath the water or the surface that can cause real damage. And that unseen mass is often harder to recognize on your own. And we just keep repeatedly experiencing that, our big ship or Titanic is hitting the tip of that iceberg, and we might experience it as overwhelm. I'm curious if this has been your experience, or if you're here because you just want to get a little reset and a little encouragement where you're at in your homeschool. This was my experience. I'm going to share with you my story in a moment, but I've learned as I've walked alongside homeschool moms that overwhelm can sometimes be something that's underneath so many possible interactions and challenges that people have, like too many frustrating interactions with your partner, or juggling endless activities and never having enough time for connection with the kids or with the most important people in your life, sometimes with yourself, not really being able to spend time on your own by yourself. Sometimes overwhelm happens because you have too many tense moments with the kids and you're not sure how to fix it. Or you're constantly wondering how you should be doing this homeschool thing. The routine, great when people talk about it on social and you're trying to do all the things. Sometimes just carrying the weight of the news and what's going on in the world today, and that always has the backdrop to our life. Or trying your best to do the very right thing in your homeschool family life, but questioning whether you're truly getting it right, if you're really doing enough. That enough word is a common discussion point in the homeschool mom community. Is that your experience? It certainly has been mine. Sometimes overwhelm is about giving everything to everyone else until you collapse at night with Netflix or some streaming service, dark chocolate, and feeling just exhausted and not feeling fulfilled, feeling sometimes unsupported because various people really aren't your support network, and you need that, but you don't have a support network. Or you're struggling with perfectionism, as I have, knowing that your expectations are too high, or having this sense that your expectations are too high, but not quite sure how to put your finger on it. You're unsure how to let go of them because you're not even quite sure exactly which ones are unrealistic and which ones aren't. Or you're feeling like you're not enough or that what you're doing isn't good enough. maybe you're losing yourself in the process of meeting everyone else's needs. Does any of this resonate with you? If so, know that you're not alone. I say this often in coaching, that if you don't resonate with any of that, you might be alone, but if you resonate with those things, you're not alone. There are a lot of people that have these experiences as well. I'm hoping that by the end of our time together, you are going to be equipped to incorporate ways or strategies to reset your homeschool life at the season, to reduce overwhelm and help you reclaim your joy or purpose, your sense of purpose that led you to homeschooling in the first place. So, we're going to talk about 3 simple strategies that you can implement right away to reduce your overwhelm and bring back more joy. But by the end of our time together, my goal is to simplify your day, help you prioritize what really matters, and just feel more balanced. So, I want to share with you my story. If you haven't heard my story already, I try to share it often on podcast, YouTube, definitely in coaching, because there was a pivotal story for me that shifted everything. Now, I know you're here because homeschooling can sometimes feel heavy, and I don't think it has to be that way. I know it doesn't have to be that way. I remember this moment where we were traveling into northern British Columbia, and we were living there for a few months. I woke up late again. That was the season where I woke up late often, and it was in the thick of my homeschool year, so all my 4 kids were rather young. And I remember waking up groggy and overwhelmed. I didn't feel rested from the night before. It was probably a January or a February, so in the middle of what we call the homeschool slump season. Didn't know anybody in the community. I didn't, feel connected in the community. Maybe I was premenstrual groggy. Maybe it was a Monday morning. Maybe I'd had an argument with my husband. Maybe I'd woken up with the kids in the night. All of those things could have been a possibility at that season. I remember that there was a cup of cold coffee beside me, and it was kind of sloppy and, wet at the base, but it just spoke to me that my kids were trying to help me and support me, and they wanted me to wake up because it was time to get up. And it woke me because I could smell the coffee. You know how a cup of coffee sitting on your bedside table just perks you up even before you've got it in your mouth? Sometimes just holding that cup of coffee energizes me without even drinking. And I remember the coffee sitting on the bedside table. And then I remember hearing noise from the kitchen. I remember hearing the noise of maybe kids shuffling around trying to do something, probably cooking. And I remember there being a little kerfuffle, some sort of conflict. And I remember walking into the kitchen and thinking, this is amazing. I'm so grateful that my kids are, the older ones are looking after the younger ones, making breakfast. There's like bits of pancake dough, various places, on the floor, on the counter, as it is when kids cook independently. But I remember being grateful that they did that. I also remember thinking, this is a real mess. And this is probably not the way my head needs to wake up, even though I can see that what they're doing is great. And then they're fighting over who's going to flip the next pancake. And, I remember having to spend a lot of energy trying to get the energy in a happy place again. And it felt almost like marathon effort energy. That time where in the morning you're like, okay, if I just do this one thing, then I can gather that energy back. I can get the kids connected again, and we're going to have a great day. And so it didn't start out great, but I figured out how to do that marathon effort to do it, to gather everybody's energy. But we did. And then we got over to the sofa and grabbed the basket of activities that I typically did for circle time. And, fun activities, things that I enjoy doing too. And I remember thinking, okay, this is going to be good. But then as soon as kids were trying to sit down, they were also fighting over which seat it was going to be, who's going to sit where and who's going to use the Legos this time or something like that. And I just remember feeling that, that irritation again. Like, seriously, I put all this effort into helping things calm down and get into a good place. And now we're going to start the day. And here it is again. Have you been there? Where you're like, not really again? And so then it got kind of intense again, kids fighting over things. But I can remember thinking that almost like I was listening to somebody else yelling, and I was thinking, okay, why is somebody yelling? And realizing it was me. I was trying to make the energy stop, the intensity stop. And instead of an effective approach by listening or all the things that I'd learned later to do, I, in the moment, just got loud and I could feel it inside of me that what's going on? I have tried so hard to make this day a beautiful day. And I worked so hard to do this. And here it is again. And I love my homeschool life. This isn't how I want to feel, though. This is not how I imagined my homeschool life would be. And since yesterday was the last time this kind of experience happened, this is happening too frequently. I remember thinking too that kids, you got a great life here. You got a lot of freedom, so much freedom. Can I hear an amen? We have these moments where like, come on, like everybody should gather themselves because this is just too good to be true. We could just sit down and enjoy the morning together. We could do some fun things together. Possibly I said that. Maybe I didn't, but very probably there's some version of what I just said that I shared, but I shared it loudly. I had enough wherewithal in that moment to know that I needed to spin on my heels and leave, to turn on my heels and just go because this isn't going anywhere good. I turned on my heels. I left. I remember thinking, this is not how this is supposed to be. This isn't what I want. I want to enjoy my time sitting on the sofa with my 4 beautiful kids, reading these fun, amazing read alouds together, building beautiful memories. That is what I want. I want to feel peace, freedom, and connection. So I go into my room and I'm madly texting my husband and I'm just saying something like, I'm so frustrated or something similar. He's at work in Emerge and not available, not responding to me. So I text my friend and I'm doing that, mad texting thing where you're like, I need to talk to somebody, but I'm so mad. And the more that I text, I'm like rant texting and it's not actually making me feel better. The more I text, the more intense I feel. So at some point my friend tells me that she watched this video the night before. Maybe she was trying to distract me by telling me this. That might've been the only way to get me out of that energy at the moment. But she said to me, there's this video that I watched last night. You should watch it. It's like going crazy viral. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, I don't know what else to do. So I poked my head out and said to the kids, listen, just, if you could just help the other kids play in the backyard or do something downstairs, I'm going to be out in a little bit. And so I sat at the end of the bed on the floor and watched this video of this woman who was wearing these big black chunky shoes and a jean jacket, and she had this cute blonde coif. And I remember her sharing various things about shame and vulnerability. I remember those 2 words. I remember that she was talking about a sense of freedom that she had because she owned how she felt and that she had to be authentic in her life and really be honest with herself about whether she was really giving to herself or expecting things for herself. I remember her talking about reclaiming her life because she owned the fact that she had to deal with the internal narrative of shame that she'd lived through. So if you haven't guessed already, this is Brené Brown's first YouTube TEDx talk. And it went viral the day before, maybe a few hours before. And I was on that train of listening to her share her story. It was the catalyst for a giant shift for me. It made me feel activated. I was like, that's me. I don't think I'm owning who I am, what I'm about, what I feel. I'm not asking people to support me in what I need. I'm reactively just, angry that they're not, but I'm not doing something proactive for myself, trying to address my needs or do anything for myself. I'm just trying to do the next right thing because that's what I've always known to do. And I need to do it perfectly because if I don't, then I'll feel like I'm not good enough, even though the attempt at perfection was really a mask because I was already not feeling good enough. My perfectly imperfect homeschool didn't feel like it was enough. But there was something about that catalyst moment that compelled me to explore all the things. And though there have been many iterations and many stories along the way, it wasn't just one moment in time that shifted everything for me. There were many iterations, many moments afterward. I intentionally sought to understand who I really am, what my feelings are, my reasons for needing to be perfect, my reasons for not feeling enough. I had to ask myself why I hadn't been caring about what this was before and why I was doing things the way I was doing them. So I invite you to consider your own experience, your own struggles in your homeschool mom life. Consider for a moment, are those things that would maybe resonate with you? For those of you new to me, if you haven't already met me, my name is Teresa Wiedrick. I'm a graduated homeschool mom of 4 kids and a certified life coach for homeschool moms. And I support homeschool moms to stop pushing through so they can shed what's not working and enjoy their homeschool mom lives more. And I know it can be done because I am case example number 1. Okay, so before we jump into the good stuff, the deep stuff, let me give you a quick win. One of the things that you can do is to start your morning 5 to 10 minutes earlier than the rest of the kids. Now, you just heard me share my story that I didn't wake up early. And I really didn't. My kids in the beginning of my coaching, when I would share these concepts, they're like, that's so funny because I remember when you really didn't do that. And that's true. I really didn't. And I found it quite challenging. But over the course of time, I realized that this is actually one of the biggest ways I could start my day well, is actually start my day by myself. And so now I've learned that I need to incorporate journaling. You'll see me include my journal in my Instagram stories on the regular because journaling is part of my daily life. In fact, probably twice a day, most times, although I know that's not possible for everybody at this point. But I definitely am including journaling, deep breathing exercises, or a morning meditation before my head even gets off the pillow, or even before I sip a cup of coffee. The coffee is still part of the morning routine. This small, seemingly inconsequential strategy of incorporating time for you before you even connect with your kids or even see them trains you to create margins in your day. It trains you to value solitude so that you can just sit with yourself and ask yourself, what do you want for this day? In the upcoming Homeschool Reset workshop, I'm going to offer an opportunity to work through a variety of strategies in a group coaching environment. I'm going to share more about that later, though. So let's get into the heart of today's webinar. I want to start by addressing some common concerns that I hear from homeschool moms. So you might be thinking, well, homeschooling is overwhelming. That's clearly how things go because everyone talks about it, especially at this time of year and also around February. And sometimes you hear people talk about it so hard to fit everything in that you almost see it as like, well, it's just a rite of passage. This is the way it should be. And if that's you, let me tell you, you aren't alone. It's true. People talk about it because many people experience it. I hear many homeschool moms declare the white flag of overwhelm at this time of the year. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be. Overwhelm comes when we are trying to do everything or when we're not really looking at the different elements of our life, all the different components, and asking ourselves how they're contributing to our overall sense of well-being. You certainly don't need to do everything to be a successful homeschool mom. I know that to be true. But let me share with you one of the gals that I worked with. Her name is Trina. She felt like there was too much. She was anticipating her third baby. She had a challenging first and second labors. You can actually hear her story, her and I having a conversation on the Homeschool Mama Self-Care podcast. So I want to share this story with you because, of course, uniquely, if you recall, if this was your experience, having a baby definitely sets in motion overwhelm, easy access to overwhelm when a new baby is introduced to the family. So she said that our conversations cut through the noise in her head, helping her to tackle deep-seated issues like childhood trauma moments or postpartum mood challenges. And for her, also the pressures of perfectionism. She emphasized how I helped her arrive at her own answers through thoughtful questioning rather than me just giving her strategies or solutions. She felt at ease expressing herself without judgment and no rush, which is exactly what my intention is behind the Homeschool Reset workshop. A safe space for her to explore and express her challenges. Trina realized that she could hear my supportive words in her head long after we were coaching, which was pretty cool for me to hear later on in the podcast. But she said to me that I hear your words. It's not that you could maybe do this thing, and you can do this thing confidently and without feeling overwhelmed and stressed, but you already are doing it. That's how I want you to feel when you come away from the Homeschool Reset workshop. Trina shared these exact words. She said, our conversations always cut through the noise in my head or all of the symptoms that seemed like they were the problem, but they really weren't the problem. Teresa was able to ask questions that helped me arrive at the answers on my own, which was far more valuable than just being told. We truly tackled everything from childhood trauma, bringing a baby into the homeschool, postpartum mood issues, putting myself last and learning to put myself ahead of everybody. We talked about lack of self-care, fears, routines, and structure, working while schooling, and accepting the season that you're in. And of course, homeschooling. I felt so at ease and able to fully express myself to someone outside of my family friend circle, so I could really speak about the things I needed to without editing or censoring myself. Teresa listens to understand, and I never felt judged or rushed. It was exactly what I needed in order to handle the big transition I was going through. Truly, I wouldn't have done it as gracefully without her alongside me. It was such a pleasure to walk alongside Trina. I really just wanted to go be there as a doula when she delivered her beautiful baby boy. Primarily, she said, I just wanted someone to truly know and understand me so that when I had my baby and the inevitable hormones hit, they would know how best to help me so I could help me find myself again. When I'm struggling and I start thinking, I can't do this, I find myself hearing her voice saying, you are doing it. That shift on its own is invaluable. Now I want to introduce you to Michelle. She shared how our conversations helped gain clarity about her anxieties and how they affected her relationship with her daughters. She's a homeschool mom of 2 teenage girls. Through our discussions, she learned that taking care of herself is the first and most important step in caring for her family. That is a common refrain that I hear on repeat from homeschool moms, that they aren't taking care of themselves. There is a reason why I discovered that, and I began writing about that and sharing it on my podcast. It's common. So that insight, though, about not taking care of yourself, that is a common, or that's like an underlying premise. It really aligns perfectly with the upcoming workshop about prioritizing your well-being so you can be fully present with your kids. So Michelle said this. She said, Teresa, you're a treasure trove of wisdom and good ideas and incredibly generous in your sharing. The healing that takes place and simply being heard is immense. Talking with you started to help me get centered in myself so that I could understand some of the programs that ran in the background and made me who I was, and to see the anxieties that were getting in the way of me being fully present and open to what my daughter or my daughters needed, and gave me the conviction that taking care of myself is the first most important step of caring for my people and in homeschooling. So we worked together to implement a weekly time audit, and she discovered she was spending hours on things that didn't matter to her family's values or goals, or her personal values or goals. And after making a few small changes, she found more margin, more time to be present with her kids, and even time to do things she loves to do that are beyond the homeschool mom role. More often than not, I'm working with one-on-one, or I'm working with homeschool moms one-on-one, and over the course of 12 sessions. But at the end of the webinar, I'm going to tell you about an opportunity for just 4 sessions in this homeschool reset workshop. We'll continue it into another 4 sessions where we're going to learn to live more purposefully in all the different elements of your life. So there's also Sarah. She implemented the time block approach. Have you heard of time blocking? Time audit and time blocking have been powerful shifts for me in my life, and also for the moms that I work with. So Sarah recognized that she can only create or embody or like be in these containers of time because we are limited by containers of time. And so she had to learn that she was limited by time, but she could spend time the way that she wanted to. And she learned to let the rest go. That one change gave her the mental space to enjoy her homeschool days more and feel less overwhelmed. And as no one is surprised, her kids were happier, and therefore things were easier and could breathe better when she was doing her homeschool routine. And of course, that domino effect of her kids also feeling more at ease, and then her feeling more confident that she was really serving and honoring her kids, that just served her soul and made her feel more content, that she knew she was creating more margins, but she was also feeling enough in it. And I think that is a win, right? So if any of this is resonating with you, I'm curious, would you let me know in the chat? That is, of course, if I can find the chat. Okay, so I want to break down 3 actionable strategies that you can start today just to make your homeschool life a little more smooth. And why would you want to do this? Well, because there are 3 things homeschool moms don't do to scaffold for a happy homeschool mom life. Are you curious what they are? The first thing I see homeschool moms don't do, or the things that they do that really don't serve them, is to try to pack in too much, assuming that more is more. But more actually is overwhelming and creates a stress hamster wheel. And you know how you know whether something is too much? It feels too much. That's how you know. And so maybe you'll be different than a lot of your friends. Maybe some of your friends would say, no, I'm good with that. I can do all these activities. And that's good. Then it works for them. But you'll know it's not working for you if you can feel that it's not working for you. So this idea was really revolutionary for me. And it's the most simple thing ever, a time audit. For 1 week, placing a time audit on the kitchen counter under the coffee maker with your pen, so that you are reminded every day to record what you did during the day. For 1 week, this feels tedious, yes. However, if you include the time spent on your phone, calling your mom, doing a math lesson, or, all the things you do, TikTok, taking out the garbage, whatever you do, if you can write all of that down, you'll quickly discover what you're actually doing in your life. I had a fabulous conversation with one mom yesterday. If you're here, hey, you know who you are when I say we don't want to spend 2 decades of our lives just doing the laundry and dishes and wiping floors. That's a lot of time spent doing the mundane, the things that don't matter. You'll quickly discover what your actual life is being spent on, or what you're actually doing in your life when you record a time audit. And then you can ask at the end of the week, are the things you're doing aligning with your values? And if they are, beautiful. And if they aren't, then you can look to cutting them or shifting things, changing your priorities. When I did this myself, I was actually surprised by how much time I spent on things that didn't really matter. Now, it's not to say that the floors shouldn't get wiped or that the counters shouldn't be washed or the laundry obviously needs to be made because or it has to be washed and laundered and dried and somebody's got to put it somewhere. Those things need to be done. And we don't live in a world where the homeschool kids wear tunics. Also a conversation point from yesterday. Wouldn't it be nice, though? Simplified laundry. But reality is we have those things that we need to do, but how much time do we want to spend doing them? So once I started making changes, I discovered that our days were less stressful and they felt more meaningful. And we now at the end of my days, my family days when kids are growing up, I realize there's still dishes, there's still laundry, there's still the floors. It will always be here for you. It'll be here waiting for you. What do you think you would discover if you did a time audit? I'm curious what your thoughts are, even before you do this activity. Let me check to see if I can see it. Okay. So strategy 2, or one of the reasons, the things that homeschool moms do that don't help to scaffold themselves for a happy homeschool mom life. One of the reasons is that you don't create space for mental breaks, like actual disconnecting moments. Some people would call it solitude. Sometimes it's hard to find solitude when there's a lot of people in the house at the same time. As soon as everybody leaves for, say, an hour, it has a different feel, the house, right? And reality check, we can't always do that. We can't always just say, okay, everybody go, I'm going to have quiet. But we do need to create some form of mental break. And usually you're the last person to consider in your day timer. And you don't usually have activities planned just for you, but you need to schedule intentional breaks. Homeschool days are long, but the homeschool mom life is 24 hours, 7 days a week for a couple decades. Do you know anybody else that has that kind of a job expectation? Burnout is real for the homeschool mom. For the homeschool mom of 1 and the homeschool mom of 13 and the homeschool mom who participates in classical conversations and the homeschool mom who unschools, you got to schedule breaks throughout the day or throughout your week. Maybe it's a walk to the mailbox after your lessons or a collective quiet time after lunch when everyone's doing quiet reading in the family room together, if that could be done in your home, or everyone leaves to do a quiet time in their room for an hour. Your goal is to schedule in a weekly or at minimum a bi-weekly time outside the home, away, just to do something, not grocery shopping, but not errands, just something that you would love to do. So even if that's going to a nature reserve or you'd be doing the exact same activities that you could be doing with the kids, schedule time away that is just entirely about something that you enjoy. That little break will give you fuel if you're doing something creative, but it will help refresh you, prevent burnout over the long term. It even can create a space for you to develop new interests. And you might discover you've got your own rabbit trails that you're interested in. And watch how your kids observe you as you explore your rabbit trails. That's a pretty cool experience as they discover that you too have interests beyond them. So what's one thing that you can do during your break today? I'm curious if you drop it in the chat. Is it a walk? Is it a cup of tea? Are you joining me in the Confident Homeschool Mom Collective after our webinar here? If you would like to and you have not yet joined the Confident Homeschool Mom Collective, you can come over there, you sign up as a free member, and you can hang out with us today. Or you're, of course, welcome to hang out with us every Friday. So strategy number 3, homeschool moms don't spend time. And this one is like a pretty big one. So the other ones you've heard me, or you may have heard before, but not actually enacted. But this one is a really significant one. It is getting into the nitty-gritty of like a deep dive, an assessment of what's actually going on in your world. We all have different experiences. Overwhelm, like I shared at the beginning, the iceberg tip is that, the constant, your Titanic ship rubbing up against that sharp tip is uncomfortable and unpleasant, but there's a whole bunch more going on under there. And we all have different experiences, but we aren't always spending time being honest about what's actually going on. We're not being honest with what we're feeling. We don't really know where we're really at because we're not investing time asking ourselves, where are you really? How are you really? Does life feel intentional? Does it feel as you once were hoping it would be? Maybe there's more to your homeschool overwhelm story than just feeling like there's too much curriculum. There usually is. A common conversation point I have in coaching is, I thought this was going to be about homeschooling or figuring out how to create a really effective routine. And though I'm very versed in the homeschool life, it's usually not directly about homeschooling. Sometimes, but almost never. If you want to gain clarity on your overwhelm, you can ask yourselves these 3 questions. You could write them in your journal. What are the specific tasks or responsibilities that make you feel the most overwhelmed in your life? Just by identifying what they are helps you just begin to honor and acknowledge that it's even there. You're experiencing overwhelm. It is part of your life right now. The second question is, do you have an inkling that you have unrealistic expectations? Either your own or you're attempting to honor someone else's unrealistic expectations. When you identify this and get clear on this, it helps to reveal if perfectionism is contributing to your stress. And the third question is, do you give yourself enough time each day to rest, reflect, and just breathe, just be? If you don't have the capacity to recognize when you're running on empty, that is likely going to contribute to burnout or frustration or too often feeling overwhelmed. So when was the last time that someone actually asked you, how are you really? And when was the last time you answered honestly? So if you can answer that transparently for yourself, and of course, you're welcome to join me as well in the Homeschool Reset Workshop. I'm holding on to a thread here. If you want to do this homeschool family life, but you're kind of okay some days and kind of miserable other days, then it doesn't have to be like this. You can shift gears if you want. Just pause for a moment and just, maybe close your eyes, take a deep breath if you can, because I know one of you is at the hockey rink right now. You can just hold your Tim Hortons coffee cup and pretend you're watching. So you could just take a deep breath and just ask yourself, okay, what really brought you here today to the webinar? I, of course, would love to hear what you have to say about that, what you're really taking away from today's session. And hey, while you're at it, can you drop an emoji in the comment section to tell me how it feels right now for you? I want you to, back to closing your eyes, think about this. What if, and this can be something fun, just, for a moment, just imagine what it would be like if you didn't feel overwhelmed. Imagine waking up in the morning and knowing exactly what you want to accomplish for the day. No more scrambling, No more like jumping out of bed and just zooming into the day or feeling behind, always feeling behind. Your homeschool lessons flow with more ease. And by the end of the day, you feel connected to the kids and you feel at peace. And you generally have the sense of, I actually really enjoy this. It is how you imagined, and it's aligning. Your actual daily experience is aligning with your vision for your homeschool. That would feel amazing, right? My goal for you today is simple. I want you to leave here with a deeper sense of clarity and peace. By using these three strategies, though they be simple, or at least the morning mindfulness moment might be simple. Doing the time audit will be a little bit more effort over the course of a week, and getting into the nitty gritty of why you're really overwhelmed, that'll take an extra special amount of effort. But at core, these are pretty simple strategies. And when you do these things, you'll start to feel a little more balanced. You'll feel more balanced. But what happens if you don't address this stuff? You start to feel more stressed. And just like my experience over that one day in northern BC, where I thought I had it under control, everything was going to be good after I'd had breakfast, cleaned up, and gathered the energy of the kids. And then we're sitting on the sofa, and you're kidding me. This thing, there's another thing, and there's just like a snowball effect. And that happens in single days as homeschool moms, but it also happens over seasons. And that's why, as in my observation, by year 3 or year 4, a lot of homeschool moms just put that white flag of overwhelm, and they're like, I am done. I can't do this anymore. That's very common at year 3 or 4. It's also common to feel that overwhelm in October. It's also common to feel a slump or winter blues in about January, February. And it's just a common repeated experience. But also burnout is common. If you look it up right now on the internet, you're going to see homeschool burnout. There are a lot of hits. There's a lot of website pages for that for a reason. When I ask moms, do you feel overwhelmed or stressed or frustrated or burned out? They're most likely to tell me they feel burned out. That's the one that I do hear the most, which is interesting because I describe it as overwhelmed, but most people will say I'm burned out. And this is common. You don't enjoy your days. Your kids aren't specifically enjoying their days. You have kind of an inkling that maybe you're not doing right by the kids. And it's not because you chose the wrong curriculum or you don't have a routine. It's because there's disconnect and there's this constant presence of I'm not doing enough and I need to do it better. And there's always one more thing I could be doing. And should I be doing more? And you're not giving yourself margins to actually think about, how am I feeling? What do I need? Am I supported? It just feels like you're reacting and reacting and reacting, and the snowball keeps going down the hill. And then you realize you are yelling. You're frustrated. And that's why I'm here to help you avoid that experience. If any of this hits home, you're not alone. This is a common conversation point. It's easy to lose sight of what started you down this homeschool journey in the first place. But there is a different way to approach this experience. You could feel more confident, intentional, and joyful in your homeschool days. You could. I know you could, because I've watched other moms do it and I have myself. So that's why I created the Homeschool Reset Workshop. I thought probably this was the best title for it. It's about a reset designed specifically for you, especially if you're challenged by this experience of perfectionism or emotional overwhelm or frustration. And you just really want to align your practical daily activities with your values. You want them to come together instead of this constant push-pull that feels incongruent with what you're really here for. So in this workshop, we're going to cover practical tools and strategies to help you understand your specific overwhelm. We're going to do it in the context of not more than 8 people. I really prefer smaller groups, especially when coaching, 5 to 8, because we are authentically sharing. And so it's not a recorded workshop. It's not something that I am willing to share other people's stories that don't feel comfortable sharing. So it's going to be a vulnerable time for us to connect deeply. We're going to talk about why we're overwhelmed and actually do exercises to help us understand why we're overwhelmed. We're going to talk about managing our emotions effectively, what we can do to practice over the course of time, a gentle accountability practice in order to make those things happen. We're going to talk about creating alignment between your values and your homeschool. We're going to talk about living authentically and with purpose. You've heard this cliche phrase of we need to survive, not thrive. That actually was the original part of my book. I was going to say homeschool mama self-care. Don't just thrive, survive, or something. And it was Judy Arnell of Unschooling to University that convinced me, too cliche. Everyone hears that. So I changed it to nurturing the nurturer. But it's cliche. It's also true. It's also 100% true. If you, as homeschool mom, feel like you're alive and your needs are met and your emotions are honored and all the things that are really mattering to you, you're including in your life, and you've got margins and space and solitude, then indeed you are thriving. That is what you will experience. But not just as a homeschool mom, also as an individual, because you will grow up and your kids will grow up and you will have a new expanded experience of life beyond your homeschool mom role. So you can incorporate time now to include those moments for that time when they grow up. So I'm wondering if I can ask permission here to share with you a way that you can reset your homeschool life, refocus on what really matters. Let me just look here. So on Tuesday, November 5th, I'm offering a 2-hour workshop that will help you with actionable steps to help you change your approach to your homeschool days. I designed this workshop to be affordable and accessible for homeschool moms because I know how valuable support and guidance is. I wish I had it in my early days. I would have chomped at the bit to have this kind of one-on-one or group coaching kind of activity. This small investment in you will give you the tools, the mindset shifts, and practical strategies that really can shift everything for you. It's your chance to create real change in your homeschool mom days and help you feel more balanced. It's an investment of $57 for a 2-hour workshop. Or for those that are interested in going deeper, I can offer a 4-session group coaching package after the workshop day, and that'll be for $277. And as a bonus, if you're ready to take this step now, I'm going to create, or I have a different option for the 4-session series. It'll be for $257, but that's just for the next 2 days. So this discount is my way of encouraging you to start this journey. You don't have to stay in this homeschool overwhelm space. So I'm going to drop the registration link in the comment section below. Now I'm curious, does anybody have any questions about any of the things that I've shared? I'm going to open the floor to an opportunity for you to ask questions, but I'm also curious what has been the most useful thing that you've learned today. So if you wouldn't mind typing in the chat, and I'll start answering your questions. I love the questions. Sometimes improving is the most fun. Any last chance to share your thoughts, your questions? Okay, so to wrap up, unless I see something, and if I do, then I will stop and respond. So if you're typing right now, that's okay. Start small. Incorporate a mindfulness moment or routine in your morning, even if it's just 2 to 5 minutes in the beginning. Spend time with yourself first in the morning with your journal or in meditation or mindfulness moments, and do a weekly time audit. These really tiny changes, or seemingly tiny changes, actually have a very large impact on your overall experience as a homeschool mom. So if you're ready, then don't miss out on this upcoming workshop. This is going to be fun, and it's going to be real, and it's going to be valuable. And it's the perfect opportunity to get personalized support in a way that I don't typically offer. And don't forget that if you're part of the Confident Homeschool Mom Collective, you have a 10% discount for all the members there. If you sign up today, you'll access or you'll see that coupon code in Patreon by the end of the day. And so use that before you sign up. And thank you all for joining me today. I genuinely believe that you can do this thing, just like Neptune up there can. Boom, yes, get to a higher level. Neptune improv. You can. And so I know you can do this just like Trina did, just like Michelle did, just like I did, just like Sarah did. I know you can live your homeschool mom life with a deeper sense of balance or feeling of balance, more presence, more joy. You got this, girlfriend. So I'll see you in the Confident Homeschool Mom Collective in just a few minutes. Or if you are going to check me out again next week on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to get more encouragement. And we'll see you next time.